Hope you're ready. Comments are disabled for this video.
This is episode 1 for March 4th, 2014. Let's chat. Welcome to Magic Chat with Dan and Mike. I'm your host, Dan Levant, and with me today is the lovely and talented Michael McKenna. Mike, who's our sponsor this week?
This week's sponsor is brought to you by Women and Infants. Quality women and infants at competitive prices.
All right, everybody, welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. My name is Dan Levant. Like I said, this is Michael McKenna with me. We are hosts. Now I'd like to take a minute here and introduce ourselves. This is our first episode to let you know kind of what the show is going to be about and let you know who Mike and I are. We're both L1s to begin with. Mostly the judging we do is around our local store. Mike, have you done any other judging besides at the shop?
Only at the Temple Games, a few GPTs, but that's about it.
Yeah. In addition to that, I am also the TO for the Magic events at TempleCon, which is a convention that we're both involved with. It happens in Warwick, Rhode Island every year. I've been playing Magic for quite a while, off and on. I started probably around 97. Very casual at first, obviously, and, kind of dropping in and out like a lot of other people have done. And then maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I really started getting much more serious about being competitive as my son got older, and he was playing more competitively, and then we ended up at the Temple Games, and we really kind of picked up our game from there. And now I play regularly in big events like Star City events and GPs. How long have you been playing, Mike?
I've been playing for about 14 years. There's a Saga was when I started competitively. I began with Vintage mostly, playing Confidant Tendrils. I played for a long time. That was my go-to deck, won a few pieces of power, but now I just play the occasional PTQ with Modern, Standard, all the good formats.
So what we're looking to do with this podcast is offer a broad scope podcast which will appeal to casual and competitive players both. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are very specific in their focus. There's limited podcasts, there's Commander podcasts, there's card speculation podcasts, but we'd like to be a little bit more diverse than that and give everybody something in this. We'll discuss limited and constructed play definitely, casual formats like Commander, new releases, card speculation, and a bigger part of that also is things that are going on in the Magic community, which really is a big part of what this game is all about, is the community. We're going to start with is our Pick One, Pack One. Now, this is something we've done, exercise we've done around the shop quite a bit. This is nothing new. Obviously, Marshall Sutcliffe on Limited Resource does his Crack-A-Pack, and he's probably made it more famous than anybody else, but we were definitely doing this beforehand. So the whole idea is that we tear open a booster pack of whatever's in standard right now, whatever's really being drafted, and we go through and look at the cards and see which ones we'd like to have. So I have here a Born of the Gods pack.
It is a pack of Born of the Gods.
It is.
He's not
You
lying.
ready? And here we go. We've got to have the pack sprinkler.
We need the pack sound. Oh, look at that. Oh, the way he handles this pack is amazing.
That sound is the key. So we've got a blank card there and a land. It's
Yep.
an island, just so we know.
Probably the best card in the pack.
Okay. Well, island is the best card in Magic, right? So the first card is Hold a Bay. This is the instant for 1 and a white. Prevent the next 7 damage that would be dealt to target creature or player this turn. Nearly unplayable, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to be playing it. Sometimes you have to, but no. If this is our first pick, this is a really, really disappointing draft.
Yep. Card number 2 is the Stensian Starbreaker. This is the 2/1 for 3 and a green. When it enters the battlefield, it destroys target aura, which, when I first looked at this card, I thought it was really good. I took it in a draft online, and then I realized it said aura and not enchantment.
I made the same exact mistake at the pre-release and main decked it. It's fine. I think people overrated it, but I don't really want to be playing it.
No, I think maybe it's a sideboard card. I think it's a fine sideboard
fine.
card if you run up against a really big bestow deck.
Yep.
Way to the Underworld. This is the enchantment aura for 3 and a black. Enchants creature and gives the creature -3/-2. What do you think about this card? Have you had a chance to play it much?
It's clunky. I have to play it. It is removal. This format's still removal light, even with Born of the Gods. It's all I see is dead weight for 3 more mana, and it doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, and doesn't really always kill things that you need to kill.
Yeah, everything's just Build-A-Bear in this format. Everything's huge, so -3/-2 doesn't always get the job done, but I'm still going to main deck it almost all the time.
Yeah. Do you think it would be better if it was -2/-3? Would that make it...
Oh yeah, it'd be much better.
Much more
I'd be much happier to play it.
Yep. Alright, our next card is Sphinx's Disciple. This is 3 blue for a 2/2 flyer with Inspired, and whenever it becomes untapped, you draw a card. I think this card is pretty solid. I'm not sure how high you pick it, but if you have
I'm
it
going
in
to
the right
disagree.
deck, really,
I actually think this card is a trap. It's just
really.
At the pre-release, a lot of people around me wanted to play this card, and I was trying to talk them out of it. It's too much mana for too slow of an effect.
Right.
By that time, it's just not doing enough for you. Playing a 2/2 on turn 5 is just not going to get it done. It can't come down and block anything, and by the time you actually do get to draw the card, it's like turn 6 or 7. It's just...
So you would really need this in like a real heavy control deck, and you think Theros Block right now doesn't have a limited control deck that could support a card like this?
There is a control deck, but it's mostly black-white, and the blue-based decks just don't want to be playing this. It's not good enough.
Sure. Okay, our next card is the War Chanter of Mogus. This is the 3 black for a 3/3 with Inspired, and whenever it becomes untapped, target creature you control gains Intimidate until end of turn. I think this card is straight up terrible.
It's not very good. I actually thought he gave himself Intimidate. It's not.
It's only target creature. Yeah,
Yeah,
he doesn't
I
have
haven't actually
Intimidate
played it.
natively. Now, I don't think
It's
even
pretty
if
bad.
I was running the black-red Minotaur deck, which is
Yeah.
actually a deck, I don't think
Yeah, it's really
this
not
guy
that
would
bad.
not be a high pick in there.
Black is really bad in Born of the Gods, and this is like a prime example of
Yeah.
why everything's overcosted or doesn't do enough.
Yeah. And speaking of the Minotaur deck, our next card is the Kargama Butcher, 2 and a red for a 2/3 with Inspired. Whenever it becomes untapped, it gets +2/+0 until end of
I
turn.
love this card.
Yep, I've played with it once in a deck, and I think it's just fabulous. And if you're getting this deck, this Minotaur deck, that is just like an all-star in the deck.
It was very underrated at the beginning of the format. It's really solid.
Yep. Not much more to say there. Our next one is Loyal Pegasus. This is 1 white for the 2/1 flyer. Can't attack or block alone. What are your thoughts here? In the deck, in the white heroic deck, I think this guy is fine.
Yeah, people other than me have had good results with it. I don't really like it, but I've seen it do work, so.
Yeah, there was one, a limited game I heard someone talking about, it was on camera, where a guy, no, it was a Moto draft, Magic the Gathering Online, where they were doing Triple Born, and the guy went super deep on the Loyal Pegasus deck. He had like 5 of them or something.
Yeah.
Like, it was insane. It was absolutely insane.
Not
It's like
possible
turn 1
in real life.
Pegasus, turn 2 Pegasus, just win on the back of that. So, he's not a reason for you to go into the blue-white heroic deck, but I think if you're already there, he's a fine addition to the mix.
Yep.
Elite Skirmisher, 2 and a white for the 3/1 with heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Elite Skirmisher, you may tap target creature. What are your thoughts on this guy?
Happy taking him 5th or 6th pick. I think he's okay. He's nothing insane. He trades up a lot of the time, and he clears a path.
Yep. Completely agree on that. Mortal's Resolve. Green and a 1. For an instant, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains indestructible on the end of turn.
People keep playing this card against me. I don't think it's very good. 2-mana tricks are so much worse than 1-mana tricks, but I guess it's okay.
I think it's a solid trick.
Yeah.
I mean, in this format, and again, we're talking about within Theros Block, 'cause there's a lot of heroic going on. The green-white heroic deck is good. It triggers heroic. It makes your guy indestructible.
Yep.
I think it's fine. Again, I wouldn't pick it highly.
No.
It will probably come back around to you. Our next card, 1 mana black, Asphyxiate. It's a sorcery, destroy target untapped creature. In Theros Block, I think this is a premium removal card.
I don't really know how I feel about this card. It's so bad when you're not killing a creature on curve. If your opponent's aggressive, they're just going to be swinging in, and it's... I don't know if it ever hits what you need it to hit, but it's still removal, so
Yeah.
you have to play it. But black
I
just isn't
haven't-
that good.
Yeah, I haven't done black in a Born of the Gods Theros draft yet. But I've had this card played against me several times, and I've
when
dropped
it's good,
my
it's good.
yeah. I mean, I lean towards like the green fatty deck, so I drop my my Viper or whatever, and then they just kill it, or my my Fox there, Vulpine Goliath, and they'll just kill it before I get to do anything with it. So
Yeah.
maybe I didn't. It feels like it's probably main deckable, but you could always
Oh, it is
sideboard it.
main deckable, yeah.
Yeah, and you could always bring it out against the real hyper-aggressive decks.
Which is a problem, because I think they're probably the best decks right now. I think, not green-white, red-white is probably the best deck.
Yeah.
But and it's so bad there. If they go turn to the 2-mana 1/1, the Skyguard, I don't know his
He
name.
just did.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
just,
yeah.
It's so bad against that type of deck.
The Crowan Skyguard? I think
That
that's
guy,
what he's
yeah.
called. Yeah, that card is amazing. And we can talk about that some more in a minute. So our next card is green into 1, Unravel the Ether. It's an instant, choose target artifact or enchantment. Its owner shuffles it into his or her library.
Solid.
It's solid, yeah. I
Yeah.
think in this format, running one piece of enchantment removal in the main is completely fine to do.
Yeah, I like this card. It's cheap, instant speed. It's good.
Yep, I like it. Potential first pick for you or no? I don't think it is, but
So far, I don't know if I'd take it over the Butcher, just because Red has been so bad in Theros and so good in Born of the Gods that I still think people still have the stigma of Red being bad, so I'd probably take the Butcher.
yeah.
But it is a good card. I would not be unhappy picking it second or third.
Yeah. Next card. Actually, I'm kind of unfamiliar with. This is Pillar of War. I wonder why I'm unfamiliar with it. 3 colorless mana for an artifact creature golem with Defender. As long as it is enchanted, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender.
I have no idea how to rate this card. I've seen it played.
Neither do I.
It's just been there. I don't know.
It's pretty art. I gotta say
Yeah.
that. It looks like there's like a Greek column, and one of the figures that's a column has come to life and is all burning and walking down the steps.
When a card is bad, say how nice the art is.
I guess if you've already got a lot of bestow stuff going on, I guess this guy would be okay.
I don't even know.
I don't know either.
It seems so mediocre. You can't like pressure opponents early with it. I don't know.
Yeah, it'd be sweet with a Nimbus Naiad strap.
It
to
would.
him.
Yeah, everything is though.
Yeah. It probably falls in that 23rd playable spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're not happy to run it, but it'll go in there if you need it. Our next card is Sunbound. This is 3 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchanted creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever you gain life, put that many +1/+1 counters on this creature.
So it effectively says 3 mana and a white target creature.
Yeah,
It has no
basically.
other text. Yeah, it's terrible.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And our last card is the Hero of Leah Tower. For 1 green, it's a 1/1 human warrior, and it has heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets it, you may pay X. If you do, put X +1/+1 counters on Hero of Leah Tower. What are your feelings on this card?
It's not good early, like a lot of people want it to be, because if you are targeting it with something, you're probably tapping out to target it on curve. So it's really just a mana sink late game, and I don't know if that's good enough. It still doesn't pull me in as a first pick card. It's good. It's a solid
It's
card.
playable.
Yeah. Slightly overrated.
I really
guess.
agree with you. I think it's very overrated. I think the fact that it doesn't natively get any +1 counters when you target it is a big problem. You have to pay the X to put anything on
Yeah,
it.
it's not where I want to be.
Yeah, and in green, by the time you get up to like 4 mana, you want to be doing other things.
Yeah.
You don't want to be dropping a 1/1 at that
Green
point.
heroic
trying
decks
to
are
pump it up.
already clunky. The 4 mana 2/2, the 3 mana 1/1. A lot of the time, they're just
I
not the best heroic cards.
I would not pick this card high. Even in my mind, it even kind of falls into that. I'd be okay running it like 23rd, 22nd playable or something like that. It could go in the deck, but I'm not happy to have it there.
Yeah.
So that kind of comes down to our 2 picks are Asphyxiate and the Kargama Butcher. What do you think? What would you take?
I've been really impressed with the Butcher. A lot of the times it's just a 3 mana 4/3 beating down, especially when you're using tricks and stuff on it. I take the Butcher.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. As you well know, I tend to lean towards removal when it comes to drafts. But in this case, I think I would take the Butcher too, just because I really enjoy that deck. And if you can get, and there's a fairly good chance you'll get the other pieces to go with it, like the Rage guy, whatever. It makes all your Minotaurs cast a red-black list to cast. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but if you get him, and then you get the 5 mana Lord that goes with it.
Warcaller, I believe.
Yeah. It just gets pretty ridiculous at that point. And you've got a good chance of getting a lot of those cards because they are restricted to this deck.
Yeah.
So
Worst case scenario, he's a Riot Devils, and Jim Owens will love it.
And he's completely fine. I mean, and it's something they kind of have to block.
Yeah.
Or he gets really big really fast. So.
He's the type of card I may be overrating early in the format. I've only played like maybe 10 drafts so far this format, but I like him, and he seems better than everything else in the pack.
All right. And our next segment is going to be Magic News.
Magic News.
So what we're going to do with this is we're going to talk about top stories from the Magic community, recent tournament results, news from or things about the Pro Tour, notable information from the mothership, the daily MTG site, such as bannings and unbannings, new set announcements, Pro Tour announcements, changes to MTGO, things like that. So some of this will be about sets, some of this will be about events going on, some of this might be just about things that are going on in the Magic community, like the recent talk about the counterfeit cards that were being circulated around. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is what went on the Grand Prix Paris, which was a legacy format. Yep. Normally we're going to talk about large events that happened in the most recent weekend, but we're going to go back a couple weeks here. There are some important things that happened both in the Grand Prix Legacy, the Grand Prix Paris Legacy, and the Pro Tour Born of the Gods, which was modern. So let's start with the Grand Prix Paris, which was Legacy. The winner of the format was Javier Dominguez. He was running a Bug Delver. And the reason I want to bring this up is that there was this big controversial thing that was going on while he was on camera. So what had happened was he's in the quarterfinals. He ended up winning the entire event. He's in the quarterfinals. He's down a game. He's on camera, and he casts a Brainstorm, and in the process of resolving the Brainstorm, only puts one card back on top. Now, for those of you who don't know, Brainstorm is 1 blue for an instant. Draw 3, put 2 back on top of your library. And he only put 1 back on top, and there was a lot of chatter, like on the Twitterverse and all that, people like shouting about him being cheating, and he had done it intentionally. And Wizards' official statement on this right now is that they have investigated the matter. They don't feel that there was any intentional cheating going on, so they're letting the results of the tournament stand. So what are your thoughts on that controversy?
Well, Javier Dominguez, whose name we didn't have to look up, was he was the head of a giant witch hunt that the community has been bringing upon a number of, we'll say, high-end competitive players, mostly starting with Burton Cheney, and there was recently another one who was important, but it's very difficult for us at home to see these players make mistakes and instantly label them a cheater. We see basically everything that goes on, every turn of the game. We have full knowledge of both players' hands, and this is a high-pressure situation. I really feel for this guy. I know he played amazingly well. He deserved to win the GP. It was his GP to win. And it was immediately after a judge call on his opponent when this happened. His opponent took 10 minutes of the judge's time to put back a card where 2 cards stuck together. And
yeah,
it took a long time to resolve that. High-pressure situation. Both players are nervous, don't know what to do. Time stalled. And then, as they resume gameplay, he makes this mistake. I just cannot label this guy a cheater. I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, it definitely is a high-pressure situation. You're in the top 8 of a GP. That's a lot of pressure to begin with. Playing on camera is very different.
Yeah.
I've been in feature matches. I haven't been on camera yet. We do have friends that have been on camera for feature matches, and they will tell you that the pressures and what you're feeling is very, very different when you know that you're being watched like that.
And these people know they're on camera.
Yeah, they know they're on camera. There's a judge standing right over your shoulder. There's a lot that's going on, a very complex game situation. So it's very easy to lose track of what you're doing, lose your train of thought, and make subtle mistakes like that. And a lot of times these little mistakes will cost you games. In this case, it didn't. My own personal opinion on this is I don't feel like I know more than the judges that were on site.
No.
They investigated it, they talked to him, they talked to other people who were there, and the judges on site are confident that there was no intentional cheating going on. And to sit back here at home, watch what was going on, and contradict the people who were in charge and were on site is basically to say you don't have any faith in the judge system.
Yep.
That you don't have any faith in these people to do their jobs properly. And I really don't think that's a fair assessment to make.
And we do know that Wizards will take action.
Absolutely.
Burton Cheney was banned for a year and a half when
Yep.
he was caught cheating. And if they found this guy guilty, they would have done something about it.
Yep. And actually, earlier in the tournament, there was another gentleman who
yep.
had a judge call on him. And yeah, we do know that Wizards will definitely take action. In fact, there was an incident earlier in the same event with Gerardo Gibert, who had a judge call. The judges came over to him. They conferred with him. They thought at that time that there was no cheating going on, and they let that match that he was playing in continue.
I don't think it was cheating, though.
And, well, they came back 2 rounds later, decided under further review that there was an intentional unsporting-like conduct cheating, is what the ruling was. So they conferred with other judges, and they came back and they said 2 rounds later they disqualified him and knocked him out of the tournament.
Yeah, and let Paolo into the top 8.
Yeah. So they will definitely take action where they feel action is required. They're not hesitant about that. So again, it's like if the judges on site at a GP have decided that there was no intentional cheating going on, I really think we should accept what they say at face value.
And Wizard looks into it afterwards. They see all this tape too. It's not like they're oblivious to it.
Absolutely. And so to wrap things up about the Grand Prix Paris Legacy, the top 8 decks, obviously the top deck was Bug Delver with Dominguez, but there was also
Dominguez.
In the the rest of the top 8, there was Red, White, Blue Miracles, and I insist on writing it Red, White, and Blue, even though that's not
Blue, White, Red.
It's Red, White, and Blue, baby,
gross.
America. Esper Deathblade. There were actually 2 Bug Delvers in the top 8.
Best deck in the format.
There was a Reanimator deck. There was a Painted Stone deck, which is always fun.
Josh Davis specialty.
And a pair of Blue, White Miracles decks.
Yep, which is a deck that really surprised me. I thought that deck was on the way out, but here it is, doing well in multiple tournaments now.
Doing well, yeah, absolutely. All right, the next tournament I want to talk about was the Born of the Gods Valencia tournament, which was a modern format. The winner was Sean McLaren, who was playing Red, White, and Blue Control. The top 8 decks, and there's no huge surprises in here, I don't think. Melirapod, Affinity, Storm, Tarmo Twin, or Splinter Goyf, however you want to call it.
Tarmo Twin.
Red, White, Blue Control, Red, Blue Twin, Blue Moon, which was an interesting deck.
That, we'll say interesting.
And Red, White, and Blue Twin. So there were several twin decks in there, and it was the Red, White, Blue Control that took it. The reason I want to talk about this tournament specifically is this was the first big modern tournament of the season.
Post-bannings
especially. Yeah. So it's really kind of, we're settling the format out now. So what do you have for thoughts on like the decks that were in this and the top 8? Were you surprised to see? And what were you surprised that you didn't see? I know one of them that you thought you'd see.
Blue Moon. How? What does this deck even do? Wait, I understand Blood Moon's a powerful card, and Spreading Seas is very good, but the games he was winning were so ridiculous. It was basically just a mediocre control deck that eventually played Batterskull and killed their opponent because they couldn't deal with a Blood Moon.
Because of Batterskull.
Great metagame call, but this deck is terrible. Great metagame call. He deserved the top 8.
Yeah.
But, I have no idea what's going on.
Blood Moon does bring a lot of hate down for a lot of modern decks. He's very
Spreading
powerful.
Seased a forest against the Nicodle decks, and I'm just like, what is going on? He had them locked out of all of their other colors with Blood Moon, and then he'd Spreading Seas their green, and they just never cast another spell and die. It's not what I expected at a Pro Tour.
And again, Deathrite Shaman banning is an issue in this, because I remember a couple weeks ago I was
Blood
watching...
Moon much better.
Yep, I was watching Jund versus... what was it? Oh, this might even have been Legacy. This was Jund versus Sneak and Show, or Show and Tell.
Yep.
And the Show and Tell brought in Blood Moons. And Jund had nothing but non-basic lands. It was punishing Jund.
Yep.
Completely locked out. Until he drew... Oh, and then Show and Tell, Sneak and Showed... he sneak attacked an Emrakul in. Attacked with that, blew the guy's entire board away.
Yep.
He eventually top-decked a Swamp, ran out his Deathrite Shaman, came back and won after an Emrakul attack.
Deathrite Shaman too strong.
So in Modern now, post-banning, Blood Moon gets even stronger because you don't have that alternate mana access like you did with Deathrite Shaman.
Once you're locked out, you're locked out.
You are locked out, yeah. And that's going to hurt on a lot of decks, definitely.
Look at the list of decks in the top 8. It's good against all of them.
Yes.
Except Blue-Red Twin, but it's good against Blue-Red Control. It's just solid right now.
Yep.
Just abuse that one card and it worked for him. Yeah.
And it was good. It was interesting. So what else did you think you'd see in the top 8 that you didn't? Were you surprised by the inclusion of Tarmogoyf in the twin decks? Was that something that...
No, that was the deck I was testing before the Pro Tour. That and a few Blade Splicer Blue-White-Red decks. But I was actually surprised someone found the deck. I didn't think it was the best deck, but Patrick Dickman, the player who ran it, best twin player in the world, maybe the best modern player in the world, he played it perfectly.
Yeah.
Every game I saw him play was perfect, and I thought he was going to win the tournament. I was really surprised when he didn't. his list was very good for the tournament, and sometimes you just don't get there.
Yeah.
I do not think Blue-White Red is the best deck in Modern. It won the top 8, but his record in the Swiss wasn't that great, and I think there's better versions of the deck, and his metagame call to play Anger of the Gods was huge over Supreme Verdict, which a lot of people were playing, which is much, much worse.
Yep. I think the big no-show in the Modern tournament was Bitter Blossom after the banning.
Yeah, that card's bad.
Yeah. I mean, I know, when I saw that card unbanned, I was a 14-year-old squealing girl for a few minutes because I just absolutely love the card. But
let me rephrase. Bitter Blossom is not bad. Bitter Blossom is great. Everything else that goes with Bitter Blossom is bad. It doesn't have the shell, or everything else is too powerful for what Fairies is trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, Fairies, I think, is one of those decks that when it was in Standard, it was just backbreaking.
It was oppressive,
But those decks do not always translate out to the larger formats, the Modern and then the Eternal formats like Legacy.
Can't beat a Nicodle.
Yeah, it really can't. I mean, I've played Bitter Blossom. I was running Dead Guy Elf for a while in Legacy. And you have all kinds of tools to work with for hand disruption and board disruption, and it can really be crippling. But
it was inevitability.
Yeah, it's inevitability. I mean, it's possible that like a Pox type deck might be able to run Bitter Blossom. I know there was a Pox deck there at Modern. It was, oh my goodness, that was fun to watch. He basically played 8 copies of the Rack.
I'm so happy he didn't top 8. If other more casual Modern players saw that deck and played that against me at like PTQs or GPs, I'd be so upset.
It was absolutely hilarious. My favorite part was the comment by the commentators who said this was the deck that every 12-year-old was playing in 1995. Hand Disruption and the Rack. But it was funny to see. But that's a deck that definitely could have worked well with Bitter Blossom. I think so. There may be a deck that wants it. It definitely doesn't go in the Black-White Tokens deck.
It has the power level.
Yeah, it just hasn't found its home yet. So that was Modern, and so now I'd like to touch on the 2 most recent. Actually, we got 3 most recent. We've got the Grand Prix Melbourne, which was Standard. The winner, and I hope I don't mangle his name, was Nam Sung-wook. He's the first South Korean winner of a Grand Prix, which was really cool. He was running Black Devotion, and I was really happy to see that deck finally win a tournament again.
Just go away.
It feels like a really strong deck, and I'm surprised it hasn't actually done. It looks like it's always been, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah.
It's been close. It's been very competitive, but it hasn't really taken any events since BBD played it, I don't think.
Wow, Blue Devotion top 8'd too?
Yep. So the
on
top
paper,
8, just to
these decks
touch,
don't look
is
good.
Jund Monsters. There were 3 Esper Control decks, a Blue Devotion, an Orzhov Midrange. I hate that deck. And Green-Red Monsters. So Black Devotion, the finals were against an Esper Control deck, which I feel is like one of Black Devotion's worst matchups, because they have answers to everything you're doing. You have answers to none of what they're doing. You can't take care of enchantments. In the regular mono Black Devotion decks, your stuff is all susceptible to board wipes and Elspeth taking them out, and Oblivion Rings. Not Oblivion Rings, Detention Spheres.
Yes.
And there's just very little I think you can do. But he pulled it out, which was really cool.
Yeah. It's weird because post-board, the Mono Black deck tries to become its own kind of control deck, and it's just not doing what Esper's doing as well.
Yeah, it typically brings in Duress and Lifebane Zombie, right?
Package. I don't know if they do anymore. I know they did. Actually, they probably should now.
Yeah, because he swings in on Elspeth.
Blood Baron, too.
And Blood Baron.
So you can randomly mines a Blood Baron out of their hand.
Yep.
But these Esper control decks aren't so much Esper as Blue-White that splash for Blood Baron and Doomblade in the board.
Yeah.
Which is really good in the right meta. Like Red-Green Monsters, you need to have those tools. Not Blood Baron. Do not bring Blood Baron in against Red-Green.
No, but the Doomblades do.
I see people do that all the time. It's just not good enough. You're a 4/4 facing a 5/5, and you lose every time.
Yeah, and the Red-Green Monsters are just going to Mizium Warders them away. And sad day. Kid face. One little thing I'd like to talk about here, actually, in Standard is I heard recently while we were playing at a Sunday event at our shop, someone complaining again about the Standard metagame.
Standard sucks!
Yep. I think, honestly, this top 8 here, that's the basic Standard metagame. Black and Blue Devotion decks, Red-Green Monster variants, and Esper Control. It's really the bulk of, I think, what's going on in Standard right now. And people always seem to complain about the standard environment, no matter what it is.
I'm bored.
And, yeah, I'm bored. I don't like this. And honestly, these aren't even necessarily legacy players that are doing it. I can understand the comparison sometimes, because I know when I've been playing standard for a while and I sit down to play legacy, it feels refreshing.
Yeah,
because
I agree.
There's a lot of thought involved, and it's challenging, and there's a lot more going on. But I just don't think standard occasionally being stagnant doesn't really bother me that much, because it's going to change soon.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got, 3-4 months, and then something else will come along.
I think people are upset because it didn't change enough. I think that's why people are upset
With the
this
introduction of
standard
Born of the
metagame.
Gods? you
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Because while Mono Black and Mono Blue are cool, and it's nice to have monocolor decks, because they haven't been a thing for so long,
Yeah.
people don't like them. People don't like playing against them, and even though they're not that insane, there's like the stigma against them that people just hate them. So
They do tend to be kind of single-minded, I guess.
yeah.
All right, so the other big event this past weekend, one of the other ones, was the GP Barcelona.
Grafensteiner!
Which was a Born of the Gods Theros Team Limited. Say that. And now, the fun part, the winners.
Grafensteiner.
Grafensteiner, Seibold were the winners.
It's not as fun. Seibold isn't as fun.
Seibold? Seibold is a lot of fun. That's a great German name. Obviously, going through the decks would be complicated here because every limited deck is going to be different. But we can talk about the top 5 cards, and I really don't think there are any big surprises here. You and I are both pretty busy limited players.
Yeah, we
play draft quite a bit. We've played Team Sealed, and we like that a lot. The top 5 cards from the bottom of the list were Phalanx Leader, Shipwreck Singer, Archetype of Courage, Nessian Asp, and Eidolon of Countless Battles.
Card is insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, open that card every time.
Nessian Asp, I think, is probably the best common creature in Theros. One of them.
Yeah, I'd say
definitely the best green common creature. Yeah, possibly the best green common. Shipwreck Singer is a little more
I was
involved.
kind of surprised about that.
Yeah, it's a great card though. It's a great utility piece.
I thought Blue-Black had gotten much worse with the inclusion of Born of the Gods, because Black is just like terrible for control strategies, but it did work. It
did
pick
up some solid removal. I mean, Asphyxiation in Theros Limited is a solid piece of removal. I've had plenty of games. I lean towards the big green monsters in Theros Limited, and I've had plenty of games where I've run out a Vulpine Goliath or a Nessian Asp, and it's just been asphyxiated.
Yep.
Or the
that's where Asphyxiate is very good.
Yep. Or any of the tribute guys. Just run them out. They'll pay the tribute, make them big, like the Serpent of the Garden, and they're just asphyxiated, and it's whatever. So yeah.
Play white.
Play white. Archetype of Courage, I think there's no surprise there that was a standout card.
That's a good card.
That card is just absolutely insane, in my opinion. And Eidolon of Countless Battles, I was not 100% sure about that card when I first saw it. It seemed good, but I think it's a lot better than I realized it was.
It's good.
It just is like
it's incredible,
huge.
Yeah.
Now the next event I want to talk about was the Star City Open in Atlanta, and we're going to talk a lot about Star City tournaments here and later on in the as we go through the podcast towards the end. And I just want to be clear: this is not necessarily an endorsement of buying cards from StarCityGames.com, but Star City is arguably the largest tournament organizer in North America.
Double the prices, double the fun.
Yeah, there's that too. Wizards runs bigger tournaments with the Grand Prix and the Pro Tour, but Star City runs tournaments every single weekend, basically. They do them in volume, and they do a very good job of doing them. And honestly, Star City is basically the reason why Legacy is still a viable competitive format.
They come to Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Who comes to Rhode Island?
Not many people. Not many people, and there's not a huge Pro Tour circuit or a large tournament circuit for Legacy right now.
No.
And Star City is supporting them. Wizards isn't going to be, and I don't think they're probably ever going to be. They are all in, doubling down on Modern.
Yep.
And the reason for that, really, is because at some point in time in the future, Legacy is going to collapse under its own weight. The availability of the cards is just going to reach a breaking point where at any price, you're just not going to be able to get the cards you need to play them. And unless Wizards is willing to get rid of the restricted list, or the reserved list, unless Wizards is willing to kill the reserved list, which seems unlikely, eventually you're just not going to be able to get the cards to play in Legacy.
Yeah, good luck finding duels. Candelabras, it's just not going to happen.
And whereas, even though the stuff in Modern can be expensive, they can reprint it, and it may not bring the prices down, as Modern Masters showed us. In some cases, it pushes the prices up, but the cards will be available, and they can always reprint them. Like, I don't think we're, sadly enough, even though I think it would be fine, I don't think we're ever going to see Tarmogoyf in a core set at this point.
No.
Probably never even reprinted in an expansion, but they can run out specialty decks with him. They could do like a From the Vault deck with him in it. So there are ways they have of getting more Tarmogoyfs like Modern Master into the market so people can get them even if they are expensive, and that's kind of the key.
I do think they could put him in a standard format, one without fetch lands, one without... I think he'd be fine.
I think he'd be completely fine.
The one problem is I see he might hike up the price of boxes for a standard set too much for players to want to buy packs. That is a possibility.
That is a possibility.
If the packs are selling for $5 a piece, people won't be happy. They don't want to spend $5 for like a random set.
And the other possibility is that if they release him like in a core set or an expansion, it could tank the secondary market value.
It's true.
Which,
not enough. He'd still be over $100.
Yeah.
It's not where they want a standard card to be.
Yeah, he's never going to really come down in any major way in price. It doesn't seem like. They would have to flood the market, and they're certainly not going to do that. So, long way around, this is why we're talking about Star City, is because Star City runs a lot of big tournaments. Now, they have a different feel to them than the GPs do. Playing in a Star City event is a lot like a giant size for FNM.
Huge FNM, yeah.
Yep, it's a lot more casual of an environment, but it's still a place when if you want to go from your local FNM into big tournaments, Star City is a great way to do it.
Great judging, competitive REL. It's a good tournament.
Yeah, very well run. So the Star City Open in Atlanta was this past weekend. The winner was Bernardo Fonseca, and he was running, again, Mono Black Devotion. Was the top deck there, and this list is kind of similar to the Melbourne list we were just talking about. So top decks are Mono Black Devotion, Esper Control, Jund Monsters, Black White Devotion, Mono Red but not a Mono Red Devotion deck. It was interesting.
Just 1 and 2 drops.
It was kind of a lot. It was a hybrid almost, 1 and 2 drops, but it did have some Devotion pieces in it. Naya Hexproof. Yeah, I was kind of happy to do that. And a red-white Devotion deck, which is a really solid card, which is probably, I haven't looked at this specific list, but it probably is like a red Devotion splash white, which is what I was running.
Type thing, yeah.
Chain to the Rocks, Boros Charm, War Eater's Helix, that kind of thing, splashing for those pieces. So again, that's really is a quick snapshot of what Standard is right now, not counting the occasional Maze's End deck that floats around, or the random rogue mill deck that's out there. That aren't really competitive. They're not really tier 1 decks. I don't know about the Naya Hexproof deck, if it's typically tier 1, but it's interesting. I don't think that deck will ever
top 8 another tournament ever again.
And in the same weekend in Star City, of course, they ran a Legacy event. No big... Well, there is actually kind of one surprise. A couple surprises, yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about... So the ones we would be expecting is the Rug Delver, the Red, White, Blue Stoneblade, the Bug Delver, Red, White, Blue Miracles, Esper Stoneblade, and Shardless Bug. Now, one of the notable ones is Goblins. I'm a huge fan of the Goblins deck. I've got to say, when I started being more competitive, I was definitely a burn player. I've always loved the Goblins because they really are the quirky comic relief of Magic. I love the interactions of the cards. They always make me laugh. They're not necessarily... Goblins has always been a strong deck. It's not necessarily tier 1, but it's really close.
Yeah. People don't prepare for it anymore.
Nope. And with the addition of Thalia, being able to vial Thalia in,
they are playing
that
Thalia?
Makes a difference. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think
it's much better with Thalia.
I haven't checked this list, but I think all the Legacy Goblins lists that are competitive now are running Thalia.
I believe so, yeah.
Being able to vial in a card like that just really warps things a lot. And
Infect.
The other big surprise at the Legacy event was Blue-Green Infect.
Yep.
I was not expecting to see an Infect deck. I don't think there was anything surprising about the list. I'm not sure if he was running Blazing Shoal or not. I don't think he was. I think he was just, it was a...
Invigorate.
It's a Stompy deck. Yeah. Yep. You have a bunch of... There's 3 primaries. There's the 1/1 Elf for 2. There's the Inkmoth Nexus.
And Blighted Agent?
Blighted Agent, the unblockable one.
Yes.
Yep. They're all 1/1s. And then you run Invigorate and Berserk, and one of my favorite cards, Vines of Astwood.
Legacy playable.
The Hexproof is relevant in this matchup. Yeah. And I actually saw this deck on camera outrace an active Jete, which was impressive.
Yeah, and shouldn't happen.
The guy had a couple counters on it, and he had enough. he had enough pump and hexproof spells to play around it. So
He deserved to win then.
yeah, the guy took one counter off. He was doing his Jete properly, one counter at a time. He one countered off, he invigorated in response. He took a second counter off, and he Vines of Astwood to give it hexproof. And then he berserked it for the win. Yay! So it was impressive to see that deck up there. It was fun to watch it run. I know a lot of people, their probably stomachs are churning knowing that this deck was doing anything. One more thing while we're still in the Magic News segment, we're going to talk about, one of the things we're going to talk about is new box sets that come out, new specialty decks. And they've just recently spoiled the lists for the Jace versus Vraska dual deck. What is there to say about that? There's no real, I mean, there's Remand in here, which is the thing.
Yeah, with terrible art.
With terrible art. And it's probably not going to be worth, I mean, Remand is a $15 card right now. This box set MSRP is at $20. So if there was any other cards in the set that were worth any money, you'd almost be making some money off them by buying it.
I think Jace is $20 itself, isn't it?
Oh, that could be, yeah. Well, there is, aside from the Planeswalkers, I don't think Vraska's worth much.
No, $6 maybe.
So between the Jace and the Remand, but I don't know if this Remand is going to have the value of the old one or not, or if it's going to tank the value. I don't think it's going to tank the value of the old ones, because there's not enough of them.
No, it'll be $6 to $8, probably in that ballpark. The original ones will probably stay 10 to 12.
Yeah.
I don't see it hurting it that much.
So there's nothing really in this box set that's anything worth chasing after.
It's cool to put more
money-wise.
Remands out there. Remands
It is
are
cool to
getting
put a few
scarce.
more Remands out there. It's nice to have the Jaces out there because he is seeing a lot of play.
It's true.
I think the biggest thing with a lot of these box sets, like you mentioned, Mike, is the new art.
Oh, God.
Some of them good, some of them not so good.
The addition of the Moto art for Future Sight and, what's the other one? Control Magic. Both very cool, thank you.
Yeah.
I like the Control Magic art for the cube, but I don't know. That Remand looks so stupid. Just holding up a scroll and just like, fuck you, I got a scroll.
I will anti-scroll you.
Yeah, counter-scrolled. And for anyone who's ever played World of Warcraft, if you can look at that and not see Mage Tier 2, oh my god. Oh, it looks so dumb, they just copied it.
Alright, on to our next segment. That's going to be Deck of the Week.
Deck of the Week.
Now, this is not going to be a segment where it's like decks to beat or top deck in the past week. This is going to be where we just talk about decks that we find that are fun or interesting. So this may be the top deck. This may be, like we saw Infector earlier, we may talk about Infect or something like that.
Yep.
But for our premiere show here, for our first episode, I'm going to spring one on you.
Okay.
This is a deck that I know is near and dear to your heart, one you love aplenty, possibly one of your favorite decks of all time.
Okay.
Caw-Blade.
Yeah, I knew it'd be Stoneforge Mystic deck.
So we're going to talk about the decks, how they work, what some of the key cards are, and things like that. So first of all, let's discuss the key cards in Caw-Blade in Standard. First
Four
of all,
cards, four
obviously,
cards, yeah.
with Squadron Hawk, I think there were 4 key cards. Squadron Hawk.
Caw, yep.
For those of you who don't know, Squadron Hawk is a 1/1 flyer for a white, 1 and a white.
Yep.
And when it enters the battlefield, you can search up any other numbers of copies of it and put them into your hand.
Yes.
So, raw card advantage on a white creature.
Mhm.
Always good. Second notable card, key card, is Stoneforge Mystic. For those of you who don't know, 1 and a white. It's a 1/2.
Yes.
When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for a piece of equipment, put it into your hand. And for 1 and a white and a tap, you can put a piece of equipment from your hand onto the battlefield.
Probably the best creature ever printed at this point.
Oh, I think...
I'm going to go with it.
I don't know. See, I'm a
With True
Deathrite
Name
Shaman
Nemesis
lover.
and Legacy, fetching up GT for that thing.
It's
Oh,
pretty
too
disgusting.
Good, yeah.
And of course, with Stoneforge Mystic, we had the new swords from Mirrodin Block,
Feast and Famine.
For a while.
That was the premier one.
and then Batterskull. And as for those that don't know,
Jache, not Batterskull.
for Stoneforge Mystic.
Oh, yeah.
When
yeah. I'm
Batterskull,
sorry.
when Batterskull rolled
I'm
in.
sorry.
Because we had the swords, and then we had Batterskull.
Yes.
A card that arguably should not have been printed.
Should not
have been made.
Baneslayer
For those of you who don't
artifact.
know, 5 colorless mana for a living weapon equipment. That means it brings a body into play with it.
Mhm.
Equipped creature gets +4/+4 vigilance and lifelink. And being able to bring something like that onto the battlefield at instant speed is
It's so stupid.
absolutely disgusting for 2 mana. I don't know why they had both of those cards in existence at the same time. What were they thinking? What? Seriously?
A 2-mana threat that you could get under counter magic that tutored for like the best card in the format.
Yep,
Oh my god.
and makes that card uncounterable, and then you can
Yep.
just bounce the Batterskull and recast it.
Yeah, if they
It
ever
was
killed the germ with a
just
dismember
insane.
or something.
Yep. Next key card in the deck.
Jace, the Moon Sculptor.
Jace the Money Sculptor. Jeez, we can't say this name properly. I was attempting to go for Jace the Mind Sculptor there, but he's Jace the Wallet Sculptor, Jace the Money Sculptor.
He's kind of good.
He's kind of good.
Handsome.
He was insane. This deck is directly what led to his banning and Stoneforge Mystics banning.
Yep. Yeah, good riddance. They were too good.
And, well, I guess I already talked about the fourth card, which would have been Batterskull.
Yes.
Kind of complete the quadrifecta there.
Which was the icing on the cake to get both of them banned.
Yeah. That was the straw.
It took
that broke the deck's back.
It took Caw-Blade Mirrors from these incredibly skill-intensive games to these horrible, I drew Stoneforge Mystic and put a Batterskull into play games.
I get mine first.
Oh, so stupid.
It reminds me a little bit about Attack Rat in the mono black mirrors right now. Whoever resolves it first just kind of wins.
So Thoughtseize into Pack Rat.
Yep.
You're dead. Yeah.
You're dead. So what kind of deck was Caw-Blade? Was it control? Was it aggro? Was it tempo? Tell us a little bit about, because you played this deck a lot.
I played it a lot, and why Caw-Blade was probably the best deck I've ever played, at least for Standard, was it could take on any role it needed to. It could be the control deck, it could be the mid-range deck, it could be the tempo deck. It had the tools to do just about anything it needed to. Had early two powerful cards in Stoneforge Mystic, card advantage in Squadron Hawk, card advantage in Jace, tempo with Jace, tempo with all these swords and other pieces, and it came together to be the perfect deck.
Perfect storm, as it were.
The perfect storm.
And even after Jace and Stoneforge Mystic were banned,
still
did that
the best
kill
deck
the
in
deck?
the format. Still
Nope.
the best deck.
It was still played. It definitely warped the metagame.
It did.
It became it became Caw-Blade decks and attempts to be anti-Caw-Blade.
Yeah,
decks.
it attempts to beat Caw-Blade, which didn't happen very often because it even had the tools out of the board to beat anything it wanted to.
Yep. So you were playing Caw-Blade mirrors and other stuff.
And people cut Day of Judgment from Caw-Blade because it wasn't good in the mirror, and they knew they wouldn't have to beat anything else.
Yep. That's kind of the poster child for a deck that warps the format. I mean, it harkens back to all the big ones like Affinity Fairies. I don't think any in Fairies ever got banned in Standard.
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah, it was dominating.
It rode the line of broken, but
yep.
They instituted tools to help beat Fairies with Volcanic Fallout. With Caw-Blade, they just gave it better cards.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Here you go. Here's a present. Yep. How'd you like more icing on your cake? You want your cake and eat it?
Yeah,
sure.
That was a mistake.
Affinity was a deck like that. Obviously, probably the grandfather of them all was Necropotence.
Oh yeah.
That was the first time that a format was entirely one deck.
Black Summer. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Our next segment we're calling In Depth. And so what we're going to do in this segment is we're going to take a closer look at some aspect of playing Magic. Sometimes that'll be rules, especially new mechanics as the sets are released. But we're also going to talk about subjects like the habits of winning game players, playing in large events, deck archetypes, anything that involves playing Magic or being in the Magic community. And for our premiere episode here, I thought we'd talk about something that's fairly relevant because it's out in Standard right now, and that is Punisher mechanics. Now, Punisher mechanics are basically cards that say, you can give me this effect or something bad is going to happen to you, like you're going to take damage. The poster child for these decks, for these card types, is Browbeat. Now, Browbeat was a sorcery. It's 2 and a red, and it says any player may have Browbeat deal 5 damage to him or her. If nobody does, target player draws 3 cards.
So, what Browbeat actually says is, if your opponent can't afford to take 5 damage, you draw 3 cards, and if you absolutely need to do 5 damage to them, you draw 3 cards. It never does what you want it to do.
I remember, obviously, like I said, when I first got into the competitive playing, I was playing Legacy Burn, and I tried this card. I wanted it to be good. I really wanted this card to be good, and it's just
It looks amazing.
Not. It does. If you look at either piece of it independently, for 2 and a red, deal 5 damage to target player.
Get 'em.
Absolutely playable, definitely playable in limited, possibly playable in constructed formats.
Yeah, be fine.
5 damage for 3 mana is a great investment.
Yeah.
You look at the other half, draw 3 cards for 2 and a red. Blue doesn't even do that.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, especially in red. So, like, either piece of this is good, but on this card together, just does not get there. Mm-hmm. And that, again, like you were saying, is because it's your opponent who's making the decision. And how is that, like, something big that really affects this?
They'll always give you what's worst for you and best for them, and when a game of Magic comes down to outplaying your opponent, you want to have all the decisions. You want to be able to outplay them. You don't want to give them the option to just beat you.
Yeah, to give you the lesser effect. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine how insane this card would be if instead of that it said choose one.
Yeah, or
Yeah, that would be utterly broken.
Not bad.
Absolutely degenerate. And so why this is relevant is because we have a Punisher mechanic in Standard right now with Tribute.
Yep.
Tribute says you can put X number of +1/+1 counters, or N number, I suppose, of +1/+1 counters on target creature, or there's some effect. Some do, like the Farragax Giant will do 5 to the dome. The Phoenix gains haste and
Harry Potter
recursion,
Phoenix, yep.
the Harry Potter Phoenix. The Snake lets you gain 4 life, or it just gets really huge.
Fun
So
limited card, yeah.
yeah, so these are decent limited cards. I haven't seen any of them make their way into constructed.
There's a
Even the
reason why,
Phoenix
yeah.
isn't even doing the green
Oh
red.
my
And
God.
again, I mean, the issue is, it's like if you drop a Farragax Giant, like I was playing on an online draft recently.
Yeah.
My opponent played a Farragax Giant against me, and I was at 20 life.
Yeah.
I was like,
Fine,
sure, have
I'll
a
take
3/3.
5. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
beat your 3/3.
Absolutely, I can beat your 3/3 because I had plenty of blockers for it. So, in a lot of situations, you're going to run into the kind of the corner case situation where the punishment end of the mechanic actually works for you, where they can't take that 5 life, and you do get the 5/5 out, and that's helpful. But that's not the norm of what you're going to see with these cards. And there's been a lot of times like where I've cast the Phoenix, they paid the tribute and then asphyxiated it,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Nice 5/5.
yep, nice 5/5. Wah, wah, wah.
That's the thing. They're going to pick what's best for them.
They're
If
gonna
they-
pick what's
if they
best
have
for
the
them.
removal spell, they'll do that. If they don't, they'll just soak 3 damage. Who cares? Yeah.
Yep, and that's how they'll deal with it. So the one that's really decent, at least in limited, is the Fanatic of Xenagos. That's the one red-green for a 3/3. Tribute 1, and if you don't pay the tribute, he gets +1/+1 and haste until end of turn. He's actually solid, because no matter what they pick there, there's upside for you.
Yeah, worst case scenario, even if the tribute wasn't even there, you still have a 3-mana 3/3.
Yeah,
Which is fine in limited.
which is completely fine. Yep, so that's a decent little card. Still don't think that one's going to work its way into constructed at all. Even in the green-red monsters, I don't
No.
see. Because at 3 mana, you want to be running out
Courser of Crucifix is
Courser.
so much better.
or Domri or something
Or don't
like that. Yeah. So you just got better things to do in that mana spot. But it's a decent little card. Now, to contrast this a little bit, we have cards like Fact or Fiction or Jace, Architect of Thought right now. Where, again, you're giving your opponent a decision. You're laying out cards and they're making piles for you. How is this different than that? Because Jace and Fact or Fiction are really good cards.
Well, Wizards can start by reprinting Fact or Fiction for me, but...
Do you hear that, Mark Rosewater? We
Thank
want
you,
Fact or Fiction back.
please, and Snapcaster Mage so I can Snapcast it. You ultimately have the decision. You're putting the onus on your opponent to screw up. When you reveal the 3 cards from Jace's -2, they don't know what's in your hand. So when they give you your 2 piles, based on like the way the game has been playing out, what you know, what they don't know, it's never in their favor. Either way, you're going to win, because you're going to get exactly what you wanted out of the Fact or Fiction. You may not get the card advantage you needed, but you'll get what you needed. If they split it, if you really need that Supreme Verdict, if they put Supreme Verdict in one pile and 2 other cards, you still get your Supreme Verdict. You get what you needed.
Yeah, and I mean, digging 3 cards deep into your library is just super powerful.
It is.
Because there's going to be 1 card in there that you need, and you're going to get it.
And another card I wanted to talk about is a card from Torment, 2 red. Target player discards 2 cards at random from his or her hand, unless that player has Skull Scorch, deal 4 damage to him or her. Now, I know it's easy to look back on it and say that a lot of these cards are bad, but this card trapped me for like a year. I thought this was like the best card they had ever printed. I kept jamming it into every deck, and this is a great thing that they print these cards, because it taught me that these cards were terrible.
Really?
This was the card when I realized, no, I'm done. I'm never playing them again, because
this is a red Hymn to Torah.
yeah, it looks insane. You
Yeah,
either
on
do
one
4 damage.
side.
Yeah, both are what you want to be doing. Like you're either disrupting them or dealing 4 damage. But it get to board states where they have a lot of cards in their hand. They're like, whatever, I'll take 4. And later in the game they have 1 card in their hand. It's like an island or something. And they're just like, cool, I'll discard 2 when you really needed it to do 4. And
again, the issue is you're not getting what you need at the time that you need it.
so a lot of these cards are learning curves. Eventually, it's easy for us to say don't play these, but once you actually do pick it up and play with it, it snaps. It clicks in your
Yeah.
head and you know, wow, never mind, this card's terrible.
Yeah, because again, if you look at either half of this, I mean, Hymn to Torah, which is black, target player discards 2 cards at random.
Insane.
It's
Incredible
absolutely
card.
insane.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. And for red, deal 4 damage to target player.
Looks
That would be
good.
great. That would be fantastic. But again, yeah, you're not getting what you need when you need it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the punishment mechanic just not really good. Just really straight up not good.
Crap.
It's all crap. All right, so the next segment we're going to do is we're going to do a random card. And so what this is we go on the Gatherer, and we click the button that says random card, which you didn't even know was a thing.
I didn't know. I learned that the other day.
And we're going to talk about whatever card pops up. It could be from anything that's ever been printed in Magic.
Fingers crossed, questing Feldergriff one time.
You ready for this? Ding.
I lost.
Sunlance.
Hey, this is a good card.
This is an interesting card. So this was essentially a color-shifted card from
Strafe.
Planar Chaos. Yep. It's a single white sorcery, deals 3 damage to target non-white creature. And, it even mentions in the rulings.
Yeah, Strafe.
It's a time-shifted version of Strafe.
Which only hit red cards and
Yep.
cost 1 red, or non-red cards.
So, what are your thoughts on this card?
Hey, it sees legacy play. People play it as a
What deck is
2-of.
running this?
Death and Taxes plays as
Oh,
a 2
yes,
up and a
that's
4,
right.
yeah.
Death and Taxes. I forgot about that. Because direct damage in white is just something that
It's
doesn't
rare,
happen.
yeah.
And that was kind of the big thing that Planar Chaos is. And this was, the Time Spiral block was one of Wizards' big mistakes. For a lot of different reasons. It was a very fun and interesting set, especially for enfranchised players, people that have been playing for a while. Because in Time Spiral, there was a bunch of old cards you got
it was
to see.
fantastic.
That
Time
you
Spiral
loved.
was great.
Planar Chaos, they just completely messed with the color pie, which this is a perfect example. This is one of the time-shifted cards, like Damnation was the color-shifted Wrath of God.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of others. I can't think of any off the top of my head. But, there was the green draw 3 cards. Harmonize was a color-shifted card. So they messed with the color pie, which is always dangerous when you start to do things. I don't think there was any major fallout from that. I mean, Damnation was a great card, but I think Damnation would be a fine card anyway. Because black does not mind wrathing the board. It's done that many different ways. It usually does it with like -1/-1.
Black Sun Zenith, that type of effect.
That type of effect. But it still doesn't mind killing hordes of creatures off. And then, so there was Time Spiral, Planar Chaos, and then Future Sight. And
This card is a sorcery.
Yes.
Oh man, I've had people cast this against me as an instant. I feel dumb now.
RTFC, buddy.
Yeah.
RTFC. Read the flippin' card. Yeah, I have that happen
Yeah.
sometimes. And then Future Sight was the set where they supposedly were spoiling cards that may or may not be from the future. And this is where things really...
Oh, they said May. I
May
thought it was
or-
guaranteed.
No, may or may not see them again.
That was a good call on their part.
Yeah. So, because some of them could be from alternate futures.
That's true.
And they introduced the cards, the future-shifted borders, like Tarmogoyf's original border was a future-shifted. And the big problem, where the wheels came off the bus for this was the number of mechanics that were in this block. Between the old cards that were the purple symboled cards that were shifted in, and the new cards, there was something like 43 mechanics in the set.
That seems excessive.
It was intensely excessive. Especially for newer players, because enfranchised players, again, would recognize a lot of the old mechanics that were brought in. But newer players didn't, so they had this dearth of mechanics that they had to learn.
Imagine if they put, like, phasing in that set.
Oh, it was
People
ridiculous.
would have just quit, like,
It
banned
was absolutely ridiculous.
We're done.
So that was kind of the big mistake that they made, was the vast number of mechanics. It was a fun set. It was a very flavorful set, enjoyable for a lot of us, but it didn't really go over well for reasons like that. Rosewater's talked about this one a lot on his Drive to Work podcast, where he talks about the problems that happened
I enjoyed
in
it.
the future
Good
set.
limited format, good standard format, but a lot going on.
A lot going on. Yeah, not really a set for newer players. But seeing some of the color shifted stuff was fun. Seeing some of the future sight was fun. That was interesting little notes. Tarmogoyf's text was the first time the Planeswalker card type was ever mentioned.
Yep.
They were intending to print them in Future Sight, but they didn't have the design fully worked out at that
They
point.
also intended to print Tarmogoyf as a 0/0 and
Yes.
pushed it at the last second.
Well, what I understood the story to be is that he had made it a while ago, and he had made it a 0/0. I think it was
There's also a
Rosewater's
3-drop
design.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they were looking to fill a spot in Future Sight, and someone pulled it out, and they remembered the old Lurgoyf being a 0/1, and they thought it was supposed to be a 0/1, so they made it a 0/1.
Yeah, why not?
And Tarmogoyf would still be a solid card at 0/0.
It would still be fine.
Still be very playable
The amount of times it dodges Bolt, though, because of that 1 toughness, is so relevant because of the way damage works and spell resolution.
Yep, I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been on the wrong end of that very early on in my Redburn career. So it was interesting. And of course, Steam Flogger Boss. Who doesn't love that card?
Flogging some steam.
They have been inundated with requests for contraptions.
I can't even tell you what that card does.
Steam Flogger Boss?
I just know it's ridiculous.
Anytime a rigger assembles a contraption, he resembles 2 contraptions instead. Because I had 2 teenage boys, and one of them loved the hell out of that card. It was one of Danny's favorite cards in the history of the game.
Okay.
So they don't know how to make contraptions. They don't know how they can actually have a creature assembling something.
I don't get it,
taking an action, which harkens back to one of my favorite cards of all time, Floral Spasm. Which Floral Spasm actually chooses what's going on if you look at the original
Floral Spasm don't take shit from
text.
no one.
It doesn't, yeah. So the next segment we're going to talk about, even though we're not really going to go into in-depth this time, is set reviews. And we will be doing set reviews on the show. Obviously, we don't have a set to review right now. And we're not going to do a card-by-card set review. There are other podcasts that do that. They do an excellent job. And doing a card-by-card review of an entire set is really more of a limited, focused kind of thing. Constructed players don't really need as much of that information because most of the cards in a set never make it into constructed on a regular basis.
5 to 10% maybe.
Yeah, it's a very small percentage, and it takes a lot of time. We really don't have the time to do that in this format because we're doing a lot of other things in this show. And like I said, there are other podcasts that just do an outstanding job of it.
Limited Resources does it
Limited
very well.
Resources is a great podcast. But we are going to talk about new sets. What we're going to talk about is basically the top cards in the set, which ones we think are best in Limited, which ones we think are going to make it into Constructed, which ones we think are good for price speculation, that we think are going to be worth some money sometime point in the future, how these new sets either create the Limited environment with new expansions or core sets, or with other expansions, how they affect the current Limited format, and how these expansions will affect the current standard metagame. So we're going to talk about things like that. New mechanics, we're going to discuss the new mechanics, do our best to get the rules on them correct.
You'll get the rules. Yeah.
I am kind of a rules nerd, yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we're going to talk about is what I'm calling our 3Fs, our fun and flavor favorites. There are always cards like this, like Whelming Wave.
Fantastic.
It's just awesome.
Almost fantastic.
Almost fantastic. Because they missed. There was such a flavor miss on this.
Yeah, that's
because it
terrible.
leaves behind krakens, octopuses, and leviathans, and not whales. How can it not spare
Suck it,
whales?
Colossal Whale.
Yeah.
It's one chance to shine in standard.
Sad. And then, of course, like another flavor one is Eye Gouge.
Yeah.
Which is just an awesome card.
If you got one eye, you're dead.
Yep. And again, I feel personally there's a flavor miss on this.
If you cast 2 eye gouges, it should kill anything.
It should
except
kill
for
anything.
the spiders, yeah.
Yeah, it should say deals 1 damage, or target creature gets -1/-1.
Yeah, what's that
And
Kamigawa
if it's-
mechanic? When you cast the spell, you could
Splice.
Splice. It should have spliced for if you splice another one, just kill a creature.
There you go. Or it should have been if it's not already a Cyclops, it becomes a Cyclops.
Yeah, there you go.
Because then it's only got 1 eye.
Yeah, it's dead.
It seems can be perfectly right.
Sorry,
so, we're going to have, because fun flavor like that, and art, we can talk about art too. So these are the kinds of things we're going to talk about in our set reviews. And obviously, we're between Born of the Gods and Journey into Nyx, so our first real review will be the Journey into Nyx set. Alright, the next segment we're going to talk about is Wild Speculation. Now, in this segment, we're going to look at which cards to invest in, rumors about new sets, which cards we think might get reprints, or early spoilers, the non-official ones that are coming out. This is anything rumor-based and also like card value speculation. So, you're the kind of the speculation guy here, money-wise. What do you feel is overvalued right now? I know
Remaz, the King of Oreos.
King of Oreos, yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No.
Solid card.
Solid card.
Obviously backbreaking and limited.
Better in Cube than it is in Standard.
Yeah, but Cube and Limited really shouldn't be affecting prices on cards.
Generally, no. Unless it's an oddball rarity card.
Commander will definitely affect prices in bizarre ways. There are some cards that are like Chromatic Lantern, that I would really love a foil version of Chromatic Lantern, but the price on that card is ridiculous.
I don't think anyone's getting off to foil Remazes for EDH. I'm sure they look cool, but I don't see it as an EDH card.
It probably fits in an EDH deck. I don't think you'd ever
Someone
run it as a
out there
commander.
is playing it.
Yeah.
People play Warp World in that format.
Yeah, I've been on the wrong end of that one too.
Yeah. Courser of Crufix, that's another card that's little overvalued at the moment. I think there's around $9 to $10.
Yeah.
Great card, fantastic card, but
So
a little much.
let's start. Let's talk a little bit about Modern.
Mhm.
There were definitely some card spikes in Modern that were coming. I think some of them you saw, like Pyromancer's Ascension for one.
That was my spec target for the Pro Tour, along with Geist of St. Traft and Restoration Angel. I hit on one of them.
Okay, so what? So which one did you hit on?
I hit on
Obviously,
Pyromancer's Ascension.
Pyromancer's Ascension. Storm made a big show.
Yes,
Yep.
highest percentage winning deck at the Pro Tour. John Finkel did not let me down. Thank you, John. Yeah, I bought them at around 75 cents each, and now they're sitting at about $10. So
Yeah.
it's not bad.
Probably not going to sit there. If you have any good time to sell them right now.
Yeah, they're gonna settle at 5 to 6. Get
Yeah.
rid of them now. It's a good deck. It's not a deck a lot of people can play well, and it's not a very popular deck.
Yeah, it's a pretty skill intensive. It's a really complicated combo type deck.
Yeah, it looks easy, but it's actually much harder than the Legacy version. I
Yeah.
found, because everything has to be perfect. If you screw up, Grape Shot is much harder to win with than Tendrils of Agony.
Yeah.
But
Now, what about the other two cards you were looking at? Resto and
Resto
Geist.
Angel I spec'd out at $3 and didn't move much. As of the last time I checked, it might have gone up since then, but it was doing really well on Magic Online, and it's didn't transfer over to the Pro Tour, and I'm kind of surprised. I expected it to be very good with Blade Splicer, which I expected to show up more than the pure blue-white red version of the deck that won the Pro Tour, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I still think it's a good spec target for long term, even though it did have a pre-release version. Pre-release, I believe.
Yeah, but the art is not as popular on the
No, it's
pre-release.
gross.
Yeah. And what about Geist of Saint Skill?
He went up, and I got that wrong. I wasn't even right. That card saw basically zero play at the Pro Tour
Yeah.
and went up $10. So thank you, thank you everyone for making that card go up for me when I was just stone wrong.
Yeah. I think one of the ones really went crazy with its price and shouldn't have was Bitter Blossom.
Bitter Blossom.
Still overvalued. It didn't make a showing. Again, it doesn't really have a solid home right now.
I bought a few of them. I didn't buy enough, and I sold them at $83 each for a
Yeah.
Bitter Blossom.
They were ridiculously overpriced.
I want to meet the people who bought them. I want to just go to their home and just say, "What were you doing?"
Yeah, the day that they were released, they peaked out at like $1.25. It was insane.
Yeah.
Up from like 15 to 20. It was crazy, and they're still overvalued. I think they're
They're like $50 to $60 still.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I promise you, they will settle around $30 to $35.
Yeah,
That's a good price for them.
that seems a reasonable price.
Yep.
Yeah. So sell now if you've got
Sell
spares.
now.
Do not buy.
Yeah, easy money.
So in Modern, is there anything you have your eye on right now?
I still think Restoration Angel and Geist of St. Traft have the potential to move. Specifically Geist, I don't see him being reprinted anytime soon. People love him. People love that card. It's a cool card. It will see play eventually. Maybe after Richmond, we'll see it move more. That card won a GP a month ago and didn't go up in price, and the guy said the card was insane. I guess people thought it was a flash in the pan, but
Yeah.
I think it'll prove himself. And I see that card being at $40, maybe in 3 months.
Yeah. Is there anything in Legacy you've got your eye on? I think Legacy, price-wise, is a little more stable than Modern, right? Because it's a little more stable of a format. There's not big changes going on.
I think it's absurd not to buy in on Deathrite Shamans for Legacy. Foil ones specifically. $50, I bought 24 of them at. How is that card not $150 in a year or two? It's too good.
I'm surprised it's actually as low as it is.
$50, that's insane.
Yeah. Even the non-foil ones were like, I mean, for a long
You can
time
get
they were
them
like
for
$6 or $8.
$8 now.
Yeah.
Because of the banning in Modern. It is one of the premier creatures in Legacy, and
It's one of the premier creatures in Magic, I think.
it's the type of card people love to have pimp copies of.
Yeah.
They love it. That's a cool. It looks insane too.
Yeah.
It's very good looking.
Yeah, I think that long-term investment, I think Deathrite Shaman is always going to be in Legacy and may come back in Modern at some point.
Ooh, I do have one.
Hard to say.
Foil and non-foil Snapcaster Mages. Foil ones clocking in at about 140, 150 right now. Non-foil ones 30 to 40. It's been a little bit of flux, but
That's up a lot. They were like 18 to 20 just a while ago.
you can pick them up for 18 really easily.
Yeah.
I see this card getting banned in Modern, and if it does get banned in Modern, its price is nothing. Like, it'll still be a popular card, but it'll be like $12 to $15 for non-foil ones.
Yeah.
It is one of the best cards I've ever played, but it is not the type of card that's good in Legacy, because it doesn't
It
break.
sees a little bit of play, doesn't it?
A little, two of maybe in Stoneblade, not in Stoneblade, Miracles.
Yeah.
But it's not good enough. It's not the Stoneforge Mystic. It's not the Deathrite. It's not the
Yeah.
Dark Confidant. Even Dark Confidant doesn't see much play anymore in Legacy. But
No, outside of Jund, I
not really.
don't know where it goes. Yeah.
But his time may be up in Modern. He may be too good for what they want a card to be.
Yeah.
And in Legacy, he's a 4-mana spell. That's the problem. All the good cards you want to flash back,
Exactly.
force him to
Yep.
be a 4-mana spell, and most of the time, it'll just be better to play a Jace or something.
Yeah. Mana
Yeah.
costs are so key in Legacy. I mean, they're important in every format.
Yeah, you're getting wastelanded. You,
Yeah, but in Legacy, the difference between 1 and 2 mana is insane. Which
It's
is why
absurd.
Mental Misstep was such an incredible card, because it blanks like 80% of the format.
do not buy in on Mental Misstep.
No.
That is my advice.
No.
If you listen to me about anything, don't buy in on Mental Misstep.
it will never be unbanned in Legacy.
No, it was kind of good.
May or may not get unbanned in Modern at
I
some
think it
point.
will eventually.
I think it would be fine
Yeah.
in Modern. I think it could survive that. It would be powerful, but I don't think it would be overpowered the way it was in Legacy.
Especially if they ban Snapcaster Mage, a lot of its value goes way down.
Yeah. Standard. Anything in Standard you think is undervalued right now that might go up?
Undervalued?
Or overvalued? Well, we already know we think Brimaz is overvalued. If you have extra Brimaz,
Yeah,
sell now.
He's a $20 to $25 card. He's
Yeah.
good. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good card, but he's not what people expected him to be for the format.
I don't think he really has a deck.
He doesn't.
I mean, that's the
People were
thing.
playing him in the board of blue-white, and then they realized Blood Barons is better.
Yeah.
So we're all going to play Blood Baron.
And you notice there's no like white heroic deck, which is exactly the kind of deck you would expect. I mean, if you think about Brimaz and the Architect and the Eidolon is double white, right?
Yes.
The Countless Battles. I mean, you'd think those would be key pieces in a white devotion deck, and there is no white devotion deck.
Yeah, you just look at the rest of the format, and it's too oppressive for what it's trying to do.
Yeah.
A lot of Supreme Verdicts running around.
Yep.
And I don't think Archangel of Thune or Colonian Hydra can sustain their price much longer. People just like forgot about them and forgot. I don't know. Colonian Hydra's like
Yeah, it's
$15
funny. You just said
card.
Colonian Hydra, and I was like, oh yeah, that's still
Yeah,
a
that's
card,
still
isn't
worth
it?
money for some
I
reason.
don't think like even the green red monsters don't play that.
No, it's not a good
Except
card.
for Scott.
Except for Scott.
Yeah.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Scott.
Yeah, Archangel of Thune had a resurgence. It hit $40 at its peak, which is insane. Like, it's a fine card.
It's not Baneslayer.
It's not Baneslayer Angel. People are playing it in blue-white. It was basically just a 3/4 lifelinker
Yeah.
that got bigger. It didn't even pump anything else. And it's been replaced. Sorry, Angel of Thune, but
Sorry, Archangel.
yeah, Blood Baron's just better than you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know the Angel appeal is a thing, but it's not a $40 thing.
Right.
Go back and settle around 18, and people will be happy.
Absolutely. Yep. So that's the value speculation we're going to talk about in that segment. Some of the other things we're going to talk about, like other different kinds of speculations, like the conspiracy set that they announced. We're going to talk about these early announcements. We've only got a couple of cards for the set. What do you think about it right now?
I've read the 4-mana 3/3 6 times, and I still have no idea what it
The
does.
Clockwork
Yeah,
guy?
I have no idea what it
Yeah,
does. It doesn't make
that's-
any sense to me.
This honestly has a almost like a feel of an unset to me.
It is. It is
It's,
an unset
it's
card.
really quirky, bizarre kind of things going on in the set. And that guy's a common, too. The one that lets you draft an extra card and
Did
put
they
it back.
intend you to use that in your next draft? Is that the point of it? Like, is it to go that deep? What is
I
this
don't
card
know.
supposed to do?
It lets you take 2 cards from a draft. And it's a common.
Yeah.
Which is so you're gonna end up towards the end of the pack with a bunch of these Clockwork guys in it, and nothing else.
Worst case scenario, it's a 4-mana 3/3 too, which isn't the worst. It's
Yeah, it's not
yeah.
unplayable in limited. It's not exciting.
It's not exciting.
I'm gonna build the mono Clockwork deck.
Yeah, Contraptions.
Big
there you
army
go.
of contraptions, yeah. And so it's interesting because they said some of the new cards that are in it are going to be viable, playable, legal in Modern and Legacy, and some of them aren't. I mean, not Modern,
Oh.
in Legacy and Vintage. So there's going to be new cards, but not all of them are going to be legal in Legacy and Vintage.
That's weird. I don't think they've done that before. Because
No.
when they introduced the commander cards, like Scavenging Ooze and True Name Nemesis, they slotted instantly into Legacy.
Instantly, yeah. And it's
So
really,
they're going to do weird stuff.
they're going to do really weird stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, I'm not sure about this. I've got a weird feeling about it. It feels like an unset. It feels like an EDH kind of draft format. Because it's designed for multiplayer draft formats where you're going to be playing multiplayer games after you draft. That's what it's targeted for. So I think it's probably a limited format that's reaching out to the big Commander players.
Did you see the Angel? The Angel they spoiled?
No. Oh, yes. Everybody
4/4,
chooses
yeah.
one or the other. Yeah.
Another spec. Don't buy that Angel. I know there's like one of them, and it's like $1,000 on eBay. Don't buy it.
Don't buy it.
Bad call.
No, unless you just really are that collector and you want to like all these really weird, hard to find things.
No, buy Summerlands.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other set that they've spoiled recently, the box that's coming out, is the new From the Vault. The From the Vault Annihilation.
Below Ravages of War. Calling it
Yeah,
now.
this is going to be interesting. I'm kind of looking forward to this. I'm thinking Damnation almost certainly.
I could see Damnation.
Hard to say what else. Armageddon, maybe with some new art.
That'd be
I don't
cool.
know if is Armageddon even on Moto right now?
Yes, there's the.
Does it have
there's
new
a
art?
Judge promo one that's new with just the.
Oh yeah.
It looks kind of cool. I like it. Too expensive.
And if you look at the art, if you go to the Mothership and look up the From the Vault's Annihilation deck, there's art on it. It definitely looks kind of like Hurricane.
Oh my god, Decree of Annihilation.
Oh yeah.
That was
Yeah.
an obvious one. How did I miss that?
So I don't know if Hurricane's in or not, but it's like a mage standing in the center with his tornado-looking winds around him and a bunch of birds flying away from him. So that could be
Yep.
like a reprint of Hurricane or something like that.
How many cards are in From the Vaults?
20?
20?
15.
15,
15,
okay.
yeah.
Upheaval. I'm picking Upheaval.
Ooh, we're going to make a list here. So one is Upheaval.
Damnation. Burning
Armageddon.
of Xinyi.
Burning of Xinyi.
I
from
believe
Three
that's
Kingdoms, right?
pronunciation. Ravages of War.
Ravages of War.
Or I believe one of the two. I don't think they'll do both.
Okay.
But I do think that's their way of bringing a Portal 3K card into the set.
Could be, because they've done that a few times to
They have,
sneak
yep.
with the Commander sets to bring the Portal 3K guys in.
Obvious Wrath of God. There has to be Wrath of God.
The classic wrap.
Decree of Annihilation.
Decree of Annihilation. Armageddon.
Armageddon, I could see easily.
Can you think of 3 more that might be in there?
Decree of Pain. I know Commander players love that card. I think they just made a Judge promo one.
Could be.
But it seems like the type of card people would love.
Did we mention Upheaval?
People, I mentioned that
Yeah.
one. They just did a Chroma's Vengeance in From the Vault 20, so I don't think they'll do
Probably
that one.
not, yeah.
Catastrophe. I don't think
know what that one does.
This is a card from Urza's Saga, 6 mana, destroy all creatures or all lands. Almost certain they have not reprinted this card since Saga. That
I
seems like
wonder,
a solid one.
is there one?
Route? Route's another good one.
What's that one do? I don't know.
5 mana, destroy all creatures, they can't be regenerated. Pay 2 for kicker, cast it at instant speed.
I wonder if they're going to have cards in here that are like, is there going to be like a destroy all artifacts, destroy all enchantments,
Shatterstorm, that type of thing?
Shatterstorm, yeah.
I think people would be pissed if they opened
I
up
would
the
hate
box
for
and
them to
saw
do
Shatterstorm.
Shatterstorm. Yes, I completely agree with you on that
Oh my
one.
god. Tranquility.
So Magic,
Throw the box out the window.
if Shatterstorm is in here, Wizards, take it
don't-
out now.
just
Start the
don't do
printing
it.
run again. Yeah, just don't do that.
Tempest of Light. Oh my god.
And one more piece of speculation I wanted to talk about in our pilot episode here is fetch lands.
Don't do it. Don't reprint them.
There are 2 pieces. This is my line of thinking. Wizards is heavily invested in making Modern a format. As we talked about before, Legacy is going to collapse under its own weight at some point. Wizards is all in, doubling down on Modern. To make Modern viable, you need fetch lands.
You do.
That's why I'm fairly sure they're going to reprint them. Whether or not they reprint the Odyssey ones, hard to say. Onslaught ones. I would love to see that. Hard to say if they will, but we will definitely see a reprint. I think the Onslaught ones would make more sense because that would get them into Modern, and they're not there right now.
A lot of decks do suffer from the fact that they don't have all the fetch lands they need. I know Grixis Control is one of them. It has a really clunky mana base. People try to make it work, and it just won't work because it doesn't have Polluted Delta.
Yeah.
So it would be good for the format. And I know they're not completely against reprinting them because they did print them as Judge promos. I don't think they can put the Onslaught ones back into Standard. But I do think eventually they could do the Zendikar ones. They could print them in some other way. I'm not sure how. Maybe a new Modern Master. No, they can't do it in Modern Masters.
No, I think you're going to see. Well, you're not going to
Well-
see fetch lands while Ravnica is in Standard. Clearly,
No.
I don't think you're ever going to see them in a core set. So they're going to be in a big block.
Yes.
That would be my guess.
A return to Zendikar.
They have already said, and I don't know if this applies to the fetches, that they're not going to print dual lands without printing a cycle of 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
Okay.
I don't think it's necessarily a hard and fast rule, but that's their operational idea. Is that they're gonna stop printing some dual color lands and not others. They're either
Okay.
gonna be all there or not there.
I don't know if I like that. I do appreciate the enemy color sets. I loved Apocalypse, one of my favorite sets of all time. And I don't like having everything work at the same time. I like how a format will have the blue-white deck be good, how a format will have the blue-red deck be good.
Yeah.
And I think if you just give everything all the lands, there's too much good mana. Too many tricolor decks become viable. And I like that every once in a while it shrinks and expands, and I think that's a cool way to do it. And if you just put all of them out at the same time,
Which is what they're doing in Theros block.
yeah, it's not fun. I guess it's not fun for me. And while that may be different for other people, I thought it was really cool that you'd have a set with blue-red, Prophetic Bolt, Fire Ice.
Yeah, you can still get that kind of feeling in the cards that you print that are actually playable in the format. So you may have all the different colored lands available to you, but you may not have functional cards to build those color combinations of decks.
That's true.
So you can adjust the format that way. I don't know if this is something they just feel like a lot of people were complaining a lot, that they only got some duels and not others. I don't know.
It's weird. A lot of the focus on Legacy is the dual lands, but in reality, the fetch lands might actually be better than the dual lands at this point in time, because
Yeah,
they're that good. They really are.
they
And
really are.
the modern legal dual fetch lands are scaling much faster than the Onslaught ones.
Yeah,
Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest are $70 to $80 right
Which
now,
I think
and they're
is
not going to stop.
ridiculous
They're
price.
not
on
going
them.
to stop. You need them. You have to play them, and they're guaranteed 4-ofs in like all the decks that run them.
Yep. And I really do. I think the fetches, especially the modern legal ones, are just way overpriced right now. And if they see reprints, they're definitely going to come down hard, like the duel, like the Shocklands did.
Yeah.
I remember, I knew Ravnica was coming, and it was a pretty good, almost certainty that dual lands, the Shocklands, were going to be in Ravnica.
Everyone knew, yeah.
And I knew, I mean, after the fact, Rosewater said that was the first thing on the table. Of course we have to have them in there. But they were like $30-$40 a piece at that point.
They were too
right
high.
before they announced Ravnica, and they tanked to like 8 to 10.
But Thoughtseize set a precedent that card values can follow for the future. Original Thoughtseizes are still $35,
Yeah,
while Theros ones you can pick up for like $15.
yeah,
And as a collector, as someone who buys and sells cards regularly, that's really good
yeah.
for me, because it lets me play the cool art ones and have them still be worth money, and know that when they print these new cards, they're not going to crash. So if they
Right.
print the new Scalding Tarns, the new Misty Rainforests, the new Arid Mesas with different art, they're going to keep their value. The old ones, they may not, they won't be insanely expensive, but they're going to hold value. Yeah,
Thoughtseize did drop from like 60.
which
so
is fine.
it took a big
because
tank,
they
but it
should
didn't-
lower the prices.
Right, but it didn't bottom out. It didn't drop from 60 to 15.
But now the precedent's been set that the older version of the card can maintain value, which hadn't really
Absolutely.
happened before.
Right. Yep, I think that's absolutely true. And by reprinting cards like this, it gives players access to them that really need them and want them.
Terrible art. That's the key. Thank you, Thoughtseize.
I have to
Terrible art.
agree. Yeah, it's not. I mean, the art itself.
Mayonnaise fingers.
The art itself isn't a bad piece of art, but what does it have to do with Thoughtseize?
He's ripping mayonnaise out of his hands.
Because, like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really strange.
It was sad.
It makes
Poor
me
guy.
very sad that they didn't put better. Oh, and speaking of bad art, Skrillex Dark Confidant. I mean, neither piece of art on Dark Confidant is going to win any awards, but that new one is just hideous to me. Just absolutely hideous.
It's so funny. What is he doing? He's just like chilling
He's, like,
by the
on a
side of the chair.
It's
Just
like,
like,
hey, here
I
I
got
am.
grapes I'm going to feed you or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
really
terrible.
stupid.
So our next segment is going to be an upcoming event segment. And with this segment, we're just going to talk about large tournaments that are coming up in the next weekend. So we're going to be releasing this podcast on Tuesdays. These will be the events that are happening on the weekend immediately following that we release this podcast. So the one upcoming is going to be the weekend of March 7th through 9th. There's going to be a GP in Richmond, Virginia. That is going to be modern format.
The best format.
Yep. So this is going to be another interesting test for modern.
Gracie
See
St.
what kind of
Traff,
shakes
this is your
out.
last chance.
Last chance, guys. Come
Don't
on,
let me down.
Howard Taft. What's it? There is no Star City event this weekend because Star City is going to be running the GP Richmond event. So they do a fabulous job of running events. They really do.
This is very interesting. For this GP, Star City is actually upping the prize payouts
Really?
Yeah, it's 4,000 for first now, and if the tournament reaches over 1,200 players, I believe, the prize payout goes down to 100th place, and if they reach another threshold, it goes up to 150th place, which is really cool.
Really?
Which, I don't know if this precedent is going to go to every GP, but I know Star City is giving out more money. And that makes it a lot easier for someone like me to travel to GP Richmond
Right.
and leave with money, because
Yeah.
there's a cost.
If you know, I mean, ours isn't too bad. We're in New England, so
Yeah.
getting down to Richmond isn't terrible. It's a day's drive.
Yeah, it's like 5 hours.
So we can definitely do that. But then there's, where to stay, hotel, food expenses, and all the other stuff that's associated with going to an event like that. So, if you can get some or all of your money back or even leave with a little bit, that definitely encourages a lot of people to travel to go to these events.
It will break 1,200 players, and it's $250 down to 100th place. That's not bad.
That's
You're
not
gonna
bad at
recoup
all.
some of your money, and 100th place isn't easy, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah. The other big tournament runner that they're still quite a bit smaller than Star City is TCG Player.
Mhm.
They're probably the third largest tournament organizer, I think. They organize kind of independently. They are running a 5K event in Providence, Rhode Island.
This
That
weekend?
same weekend. This coming
This
weekend.
coming weekend, yep.
Yep. That'll be a standard format. So that's something else you can go to. And another thing I want to do with this segment is I want to open this up to TOs around. Anybody that's listening, if you have a TO, if you're running a larger event, and I'm not talking about FNMs or box tournaments or anything like that, but if you're running like a 5K or a 1K, you want to announce it, contact us at the podcast, and we'll definitely talk about it on air.
We will make it sound fantastic.
We will. We will sell your
We'll be
event.
swimming in cash
And
and
we
women.
want to support the local TOs, the local people, because that really is what makes the community. It's the local shops where you play your F&Ms, people that are running events locally. I mean, the big events are great, but that's not where you play most of your Magic. After the closing credits, after the end of this podcast, we have a little Magic Chat Extra where I was doing some equipment tests, and I sat down with the one of the co-owners of the Temple Games and one of the co-founders of TempleCon, Grant Garvin. So you can listen to that afterwards. All right, so that's the show. That's our first show in the can. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can leave us feedback for the show at magicchatpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/magicchatpodcast. Let us know what segments you like, what you didn't like, anything you'd like us to do segments on, topics you'd like to hear about. And again, remember to listen after the end of the show for the Magic Chat Extra with Grant Garvin.
Grant Garvin!
Until next time, keep up the conversation. So, Mike, what do you think about Blood Baron as opposed to Desecration Demons? I've been,
Fantastic stuff.
Why are there so many ostriches? I was promised only a few ostriches.
All right, welcome to the show. That was a terrible start. You know what's funny? I know to do this is like an audio cue to edit because I listen to a lot of podcasts of people reading short stories, and then you hear this in it when they make a mistake and they don't actually edit it out. It's like, yeah, now remember to edit that shit out.
Good job, dumbass, yeah.
This is February 28th, 2014, and this is a Magic Chat Extra. Hi, I'm Dan Levant. I'm one of the hosts of Magic Chat, and I'm talking here today with Grant Garvin, who is one of the co-founders of TempleCon. How's it going, Grant?
Not bad, not bad.
So, what is TempleCon all about? Tell us about it.
Well, TempleCon is an annual event that runs every year. We've been doing it for about 9 years now, and it is a very diverse event. It's a science fiction, retrofuturism, and gaming convention that kind of blends all these different worlds into one.
Sounds pretty exciting. So, for those who don't know, what is retrofuturism?
Retrofuturism is effectively a term used to describe what the people of the past, how they viewed the future. Think about what we look at as science fiction today and apply that retroactively to what people back in the 1930s and 1940s, or even earlier, might have thought that the future was going to bring them. And that's what retrofuturism is.
So like a Jules Verne kind of look on things. So we're living in tomorrow's retrofuturism
That's
right
correct.
now.
Yes.
That's
More ways
awesome.
than one, yes.
So obviously, Magic is part of TempleCon because we're on a Magic podcast. So gaming is a part of TempleCon. Why don't you tell us what kind of gaming goes on there?
A lot of different gaming. Aside from collectible card games like Magic, we also have miniatures wargaming. Games like War Machine are incredibly large at TempleCon. We have the largest War Machine event in the world that takes place over the course of the 4 days. Warhammer 40k and a lot of other games too, like Drop Zone Commander. Really fill up the minis aspect of the convention, but it's not just miniatures gaming too. There's also we have one of the big